Welcome, my beautiful people, to another episode of Dino Basics, where we dig up the basics on some of our favorite deceased beasts. My name is Logan, and today we can finish out the Pachy Chronicles as we look into the basics on the thick and spiky-skulled striker. Thank you once again to Anthony Bush 4407 for today's topic, the Stygimoloch. The earliest remains of Stygimoloch can actually be traced back to some point in the late 19th century, where a collection of unidentified bones would be discovered in the United States, specifically the Hell's Creek Formation. No, the one in Texas. Yeah, there's two, don't worry about it. However, these fossils were fairly fragmentary, and thus were not assigned to any specific dinosaur. Almost a decade later, in 1983, British paleontologist Peter Galton and German paleontologist Hans-Dieter Suess would describe a fairly intact pachycephalosaur skull with unusual horns just to the side of their signature dome. Located in Hell's Creek. No, the one in Montana. Come on, man, keep up. Despite this fossil being limited to an incomplete skull, the pair would describe a new genus and species of dinosaur based off of this skull, named the Stygimoloch spinifer. While very few remains would be recovered of this dinosaur, much of what we know is often associated with fellow pachycephalosaurs, like Pachycephalosaurus and Dracorex. However, due to confusion between the three, which we will get to in a moment, additional specimens are often in a weird gray area between whom a specimen should fall under. For example, despite appearing very similar to Stygimoloch, the nearly 50% complete specimen nicknamed Sandy is often described as a Pachycephalosaurus. The name Stygimoloch doesn't actually have a direct translation, but can be broken down into two words of origin, Styx and Moloch. Styx is meant to reference the river Styx, a goddess that sometimes took the form of a river in Greek mythology. This river would be sailed upon by the ferryman Charon as he guided souls to the underworld. This was chosen in reference to Stygimoloch being discovered in Hell's Creek, Colorado, and Hell Roaring Creek in Texas. Moloch, quite uniquely, stems from Hebrew and references the Canaanite god associated with children's sacrifice. Luckily, it has nothing to do with that, and is meant to reference the horned, devilish appearance of the god, not so different from the spike-headed Stygimoloch. The species name spinifer further reflects this, translating from Latin to mean thorny or spine-bearing. Assuming Stygimoloch was a unique genus, it would have been an ornithischian or bird-hipped dinosaur, and specifically a member of the Pachycephalosauridae family. Now, I say assuming because there is a lot of contention around this creature, whether it was truly a unique genus at all, or possibly a younger Pachycephalosaurus. That situation might sound ridiculous, but it isn't actually that uncommon in the world of paleontology. For example, the Nanotyrannus is possibly a juvenile Tyrannosaurus rex, with papers as recent as 2020 and 2024 still arguing for or against this conclusion. Or previous Dino Basics entry Torosaurus, possibly being an older form of Triceratops, similarly swaying back and forth in opinion. We briefly went over points of the Stygimoloch debate in our episode on Dracorex as well as Pachycephalosaurus, but with how crucial understanding this debate is in regards to understanding Stygimoloch, I'll provide the details of the debate here. The year is 2009. You're jamming out to the Black Eyed Peas' Boom Boom Pow and screaming at 10-year-olds in a Modern Warfare 2 lobby. At this point, Dracorex, Stygimoloch, and Pachycephalosaurus are all recognized as distinct genus, all separate members of the Pachycephalosaur family. However, this would change when paleontologists Mark Goodwin and Jack Horner would author a new paper arguing against these dinosaurs being distinct genus, and instead simply being growth stages of a single dinosaur. The pair proposed all three should be absorbed into the Pachycephalosaurus genus, which would remain due to it being described first in the early 1940s. Their timeline explained how Draco Rex would be the youngest, sporting an array of spikes and lacking the distinct domed head of many of the other group members. It would age into the Stygimoloch, which would develop its domed skull and grow out these horns even further, before finally reaching the Pachycephalosaurus stage, further developing its domed skull and reducing the prominence of these Stygimoloch spikes. To justify this conclusion, the pair would provide multiple pieces of evidence. For one, all three genus would have lived in the same environment. All three would have lived in the modern-day western United States, and even in the same formation. All three seemingly also would have lived during the late Cretaceous, nearly 70 million years ago. The life stages of these fossils also seem to match this narrative. At the writing of this study, Draco Rex and Stygimoloch fossils seem to all represent juveniles, while Pachycephalosaurus specimens seem to represent fully grown adults. So, perhaps it wasn't that we were missing fossils in the dinosaur lifespan, but simply misclassifying these ages as separate dinosaurs. The construction of Stygimoloch's skull, including growing tissue and unfused bone, seemed to further add to the idea that Stygimoloch was in the process of maturing, possibly into the larger Pachycephalosaurus. A discovery in 2016 would further lend credibility to this theory, when two baby Pachycephalosaur skulls, described as Pachycephalosaurus, seem to have a similar spike arrangement to Stygimoloch, a feature that once justified Stygimoloch as a unique genus. Now, with all this information, this raises the obvious question: was Stygimoloch just a Pachycephalosaurus, and is this video pointless? It's difficult to say. Some point to the fact that Pachycephalosaurus and Stygimoloch were found on two different strata, or rock layers, potentially indicating a 2 million year gap from when they lived. And papers are still published recognizing Stygimoloch as a unique genus, some as recent as 2021 taking this stance and suggesting, if not unique, that Stygimoloch could represent a different species of Pachycephalosaurus instead, the Pachycephalosaurus spinifer. For the sake of this video, we will assume that Stygimoloch is a completely unique genus of dinosaur. Assuming this, Stygimoloch would be a medium-sized Pachycephalosaur, measuring about 8 feet or approximately 3 meters in length, and standing about 4.5 feet or 1.5 meters tall. At this size, it likely would have weighed anywhere from 200 to 400 pounds. Obviously, with minimal fossils and confusion over what is and isn't a Stygimoloch, these estimates are largely speculative. Its large skull was approximately 1.5 feet, or 45 centimeters long, and was the location of its distinct bulbous head. A common debate among scientists is whether direct headbutting between members of a pack, similar to how modern musk oxen will directly ram one another's head to assert dominance, was even possible, or if such an impact would cause irreversible damage to the animal. If you want more details on this debate, I suggest you check out our video on Pachycephalosaurus to hear more details over both arguments. To avoid retreading ground, due to a variety of factors like dome bone composition and neck shape, it seems more than likely that Stygimoloch would be able to endure a direct headbutt against predators, and even from direct contact with another Stygimoloch's head. Most likely doing this to compete for mates or for authority in their groups. The prominent horns of Stygimoloch would grow around this domed head and measured a few inches each, with some of the longest reaching up to 4 inches in total. While other pachycephalosaurs, like Pachycephalosaurus and Dracorex, would have similar horns and bumps around their skulls, the spikes of Stygimoloch would be generally longer and sharper, most likely as a form of intimidation against predators and rivals, and to possibly inflict heavier damage if attacked. Their mouths would end in a pointed beak, followed by a set of sharp teeth for cutting from vegetation. Similar to Pachycephalosaurus, the sharpness of their teeth may hint that Stygimoloch was an omnivore, largely relying on plants for food, but occasionally scavenging meat for extra protein. But no additional evidence has shown this. The body of Stygimoloch was very similar to other members of its family, sporting an S-shaped neck ideal for absorbing stress, long legs to reach high speeds, and a fairly long tail to counterbalance its heavy skull. The legs in particular were comparatively long relative to the rest of their body, most likely helping this creature reach incredible speeds, with some estimates placing it at nearly 20 to 30 miles per hour. Some describe this creature as the prehistoric equivalent to deer or kangaroos, favoring speed to evade predators, but more than willing to put up a fight when cornered. Stygimoloch would have lived during the late Cretaceous, almost 70 million years ago. Fossils indicate it would have lived throughout the modern-day western United States, specifically states like Texas and Montana. North America during this time would have been a fairly lush and almost tropical environment, abundant with swamps and coastal plains, perfect for the grazing lifestyle of Stygimoloch. It is likely Stygimoloch would have lived alongside a variety of large herbivores, including the 3-horned Triceratops and giant Edmontosaurus, and would most likely be preyed upon by vicious carnivores like the Dromaeosaur Dakotaraptor, and possibly the king of lizards, Tyrannosaurus rex. Despite its contention as possibly not even being a real dinosaur, Stygimoloch has still been able to appear in a considerable number of media projects in the modern era. Across the Jurassic Park franchise, it has appeared in video games like 1999's Warpath: Jurassic Park, 2012's Jurassic Park Builder, and in 2018's Jurassic World Evolution, as well as its later 2021 sequel. And possibly in its largest role, appear in the 2018 film Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. Beyond these Jurassic Park appearances, it has also made appearances in shows like 2009's Dinosaur Train, as well as 2010's Dino Dan, and would appear in films like 2000's Disney's Dinosaur. The problem of maybe not existing is certainly a predicament for any dinosaur, but this does not take away from how truly unique and powerful such a creature was. Like some of its more certified family members, the Stygimoloch is a resilient and intimidating beast, able to endure a dangerous world and ram through the competition. With such a weird head like that, it certainly isn't hard to figure out how such a creature could stick in our heads. That's gonna do it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to leave a comment below what you think of Stygimoloch, and if you've heard of this dinosaur before the video. Tiptoeing around what is known versus speculated was especially hard for this dinosaur. Like, the Wikipedia page is 2 paragraphs long, and the original description by the paleontologist is a paragraph. The story of why this thing doesn't exist was more expansive than what this thing even is. Anyways, next week we're plunging back into the depths to learn about one of the few mosasaurs big enough to challenge the family namesake, Tylosaurus. Thank you for your support, and see you in the next video.